transparency, flexibility, credit-free window, and often without showing credit history. The latest shopping fad, or BNPL, that is buy now, pay later schemes, seem like such an attractive deal, don't they? Online shoppers, especially youngsters, certainly seem to think so. But what about experts? What do they think? And is the picture completely rosy? In this video, we are in conversation with Mr. Siddharth Mehta, MD and CEO of Freecharge, and he decodes for us the BNPL trend. Borrowers, here's the real deal. So the credit-free window is the main hook of BNPL schemes. But how does the lender earn then? What are the costs, hidden costs associated with BNPL offers, and what is it that borrowers should be mindful of when it comes to these costs?
When you're talking about revenue, the largest revenue on BNPL is split in two parts. The banking world or the regulated entities earn through interest and penal charges. The partners earn on the commission that they earn on transactions. So that's how it goes. So from a consumer perspective, I don't think they should fear. But on the other side, I would suggest all of them to go through the terms and conditions just to be sure of, there are no charges which come up in the future. It's an important part of the process of taking any loan.
So what has been the default rate so far in BNPL schemes, and how prone are borrowers to default in case of BNPL, and what happens in case of a default? I think we've all spoken about how attractive the scheme is and what comes with it, but what's the real deal when it comes to default?
If you look at the BNPL ecosystem, which is the 30-day, 15-day ecosystem, is largely built for that small ticket transaction, where you don't want to use. For example, if you want to do a 200 rupee transaction, for doing it using a credit card, it's a very cumbersome process. You need card number, expiry, CVV, and then an OTP. So that makes the process very cumbersome. So from a consumer point of view, if he is defaulting, the impact he will have is more long-term because his credit bureau will get impacted, which can impact his future ability to borrow. Some players are now going into segregating customers into medium, high, low risk, and you're typically getting high risk customers to sign up on recurring ENACH or UPI so that mandates so that you can recover money automatically. Outside that, as I said, most of the recovery is dependent on digital modes. So most of the recovery happens through either telecalling or through push or through SMS and so on and so forth, because the ticket sizes are so small that sending people on ground is not logically viable in this kind of a business. Loans under 25,000 have a higher default rate than the normal loans, the personal loans that happen in the market. It's a multiplier of two to three times. So that is what it is when you look at the industry.
So you even mentioned credit card a little while ago. So how do we sort of compare credit card and BNPL? In a lot of aspects, they're very similar. So what exactly are the advantages and / or disadvantages of either? Like, when would you say a credit card scores? When would you say BNPL is better?
In my view, both are going to run in parallel to each other. So let's look at the population in the country and the distribution. You have almost 30 to 40 million people who have a credit bureau, and there are a large number who don't have. Credit card penetration is very limited. And actually not 30 to 40 million, actually 300 million people who have a credit bureau. So sorry, re-quoting the numbers. But the credit card penetration from a user perspective is only for 35, 40 million users. So there is a large space that is available for where people want access to credit. Largely what BNPL or any of these credit products are doing is basically helping you bridge the gap between your affordability and your aspiration. You want to buy an iPhone 12, it's easier because you don't need to pay everything upfront. You can pay it over EMIs. That is the larger ticket. The other side of BNPL, what it is doing is the smaller ticket transactions. So you've seen the growth in UPI, and you see UPI now at every store, small stores where typical transactions are small ticket. For smaller ticket transactions, using a card sometimes is cumbersome. BNPL covers for that. So you get a credit-backed payment product for small ticket transactions, which is far more seamless. And as we see, the growth of BNPL in these small ticket transactions in the offline world will continue to grow like UPI, because again, not everywhere you find a card machine where you can actually use a card. So how do you use your credit? How do you get credit and use it? This is where it's going to get used. So I think they're going to run hand in hand. There are pros and cons. The pros and cons are more about the user experience. That's it. Outside that, it's finally both are credit products that you give to the customer. The difference, as I said, the biggest difference is the availability of people, or the accessibility of people to credit cards is limited, which is where BNPL comes in.
This is a great solution for those who are not eligible for other loan products, and it's helping them build a credit score, which is very true. Like if you were to see, most of the target segment is youngsters or people who don't have a credit history or are in the process of building one. So how do you think it helps that to that end?
There is a lot of new to credit segment, as we call it, specifically in tier 2, tier 3 towns, and even in tier 1, youngsters just joining the job, who using this can actually create their credit history and create behavior. And then eventually what will happen is you will get upsold a credit card or a larger loan while you continue to use your BNPL. But interestingly, somebody, the point I made earlier, it's a convenience product also. So a lot of users that we are seeing on who are taking Freecharge BNPL are actually 30% of the users are greater than 35 years of age. So yeah, so that's a big difference. A large part of the users who are taking it actually have a credit history, and almost 20% of the users have a credit card. The product is more about building convenience.
Anything else that you think will happen in this sort of revolutionary space? Like you think BNPL will introduce any other features, or there will be more on offer for borrowers in this arena?
Eventually, I think in the BNPL world, there will be something known as convenience fee, which will come in sometime in the future. So watch out is that, there is a regulatory working group which has given us a recommendation on how digital lending should work. So there are going to be frameworks coming in on how this business has to get operated, which is good, because then you have clear frameworks, you can build trust. Outside that, I think there's a lot of innovation that's going to happen in this space. For example, there is a lot of things where BNPL will get integrated with UPI. So you can just use your mobile to actually scan any UPI QR and pay. BNPL will eventually get extended to a standing instruction kind of model. So you can actually go to Netflix, link your BNPL, and then it's an auto debit. So there are a lot of those incremental innovations that will come in to cover different payment ecosystems.
That's all from us in this video. Stay safe and stay tuned with us for more on personal finance and personal finance news.